Good afternoon. And today we have an honor of interviewing very special guest, Dorie Clark. Good afternoon, Dorie.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here.
I First of all, thank you to our audience. And if you're someone who have trouble sleeping or sleep next to the snoring partner, today program would be really beneficial for you. And if you're a medical professional who are passionate about sleep, please use our channel as a networking ground. Only together we can find all the missing puzzles for that really strange and dangerous disease of our time. I'm going to introduce our guest to you. So I'm very proud to invite Dorie. Dorie, first of all, Dorie is a keynote speaker and she's author of 4 books, and I read them all, and they highly impact, and not even once, highly impact my way to see the world, and I would say my way to lead people and to talk about my field as well. And in addition to that, she's a philosopher of our time. She was selected as one of the Thinker 50, not even once, but twice and maybe third time, we hope. And in addition to that, she's really a Renaissance person, because in addition to doing big impact on the business world, she's also lyricist, and she write the plays for the musical theater, and her plays were on a scenes of it, on a scenes, right, of the different theaters, and we're looking forward to see it on Broadway really soon. So good afternoon, Dorie. In addition to all of that, Dorie took our Myofunctional therapy course, and today we're going to talk about impact that course made on her life. So my question to you, Dorie, first of all, can you share your experience with myofunctional therapy, how it's impact your ability to breathe through your nose, especially considering you had a history of allergy and childhood asthma, as I would say 98% of my patients.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I found myofunctional therapy to be incredibly beneficial for me. I was interested and intrigued to try it because I was having problems. I was waking up almost every morning with a headache, which I came to realize was largely because I was sleeping with my mouth open, and it was causing me to wake up and be uncomfortable. I would have to take 1 or 2 Aleve in order to get rid of the headache and get through the day. And obviously I wanted to do something different. Myofunctional therapy was helpful to me because I didn't even realize that you had the ability yourself to be able to help correct some of these problems by doing things differently, by strengthening your muscles. I had thought that you had to have sometimes extremely intensive outside medical interventions. And so the realization that there was a way to sort of take back control and learn skills so that you could sleep better and breathe better was really revelatory for me.
But can you mention what changes happen in nasal breathing habits since you start myofunctional therapy? What happened with your nasal breathing habits?
Since I started myofunctional therapy, I have learned to breathe through my nose much more frequently. And during the night, even when I'm not consciously controlling it, my muscles are stronger. And I have trained myself so that I'm able to do an incredibly much larger share of nasal breathing. So I no longer wake up with headaches. I no longer have to be taking the medicine in the morning, which is a huge relief.
Please, myofunctional therapy emphasizes tongue posture and proper swallowing technique. Has maintaining your tongue on the roof of the mouth and changing your swallowing patterns affected your breathing and overall well-being? And in general, if you can talk about tongue position.
I never knew or understood that there was a right way and a wrong way to hold your tongue. I didn't even know that was a thing. It doesn't really get talked about very much. But once I became aware that there is a proper tongue position, I realized very quickly I was not doing it. I understand that some of the risk factors are childhood asthma, which I had, childhood allergies, which I had, bottle feeding, which I did. Apparently, your tongue just kind of doesn't learn how to do it. It doesn't learn how to be strong enough. And so it sort of sags. It sort of just hangs out in the wrong position. And when your tongue is in the, it makes it almost structurally impossible for you to be breathing through your mouth, which is good because you don't want to be breathing through your mouth. And so it's been very helpful to me to train up my tongue and get it in better shape and stronger, because the more I do that and the better I'm able to have the tongue in the proper position, it means as a cascade that I am therefore much more likely to be breathing correctly through my nose.
I would like to ask you about clenching. And we're all going through such a stressful life. And, I look at the clenching very differently now. I look at the clenching like helping us to establish the balance. Some difficult moments are just so hard, and we, at least doing something what we can, we clench our teeth to feel in balance. And I would like you to talk about your own clenching habits, and has myofunctional therapy help you in reducing or managing your clenching habits?
I believe that it has. I certainly know that I clench. I have the telltale signs of it, so I know that that has been a thing in the past. So as a result, I believe that myofunctional therapy has been helpful to me. I would say the reduction, the elimination of headaches has probably been for me personally the most clearly demonstrable side effect.
Did you notice what the tongue position help? What you keep the tongue instead of clench? Did you know?
Yeah.
Did you have that observation?
Yeah, absolutely. Having your tongue in the proper position is critical to so many things because, and again, what's so interesting was I didn't even know it was a problem. I mean, much less, there's sort of the cascade of knowledge where, you may not be doing it properly, but you're like, oh, maybe I should fix that. I didn't even know it was a problem that a person could have. And so I feel like myofunctional therapy has been extremely enlightening to me in realizing, oh, there's this world of things you need to be thoughtful about, you need to be aware of. And once you are, you can take back control of your health. You as an individual are able to do things, do these exercises, which help you get back in balance.
It's so powerful what you say that, because I believe medicine of the future going to be prevention. So, you put it in the words so masterfully. And I would like to ask you back to the breathing. Before myofunctional therapy, how would you describe your typical breathing pattern? Did you breathe through your chest or through your belly?
This was another thing that I was not terribly aware of, but I was absolutely taking a lot of really shallow breaths from my chest. I didn't actually know the difference. Nobody kind of teaches you, and I guess a lot of lucky people just breathe naturally through their belly. But I have a lot of stress, and for whatever reason, I didn't. I was taking these sort of short, shallow breaths through my chest, and I didn't know any different because I just thought, well, that's how people breathe. But I now have come to be educated enough to realize, oh, there's a different way to breathe. That way is actually much better because, as you can probably imagine, when you're taking shallow, jagged breaths, it is cueing your nervous system to say, oh, you're stressed. There's kind of a problem here. And it creates a negative cascade. So it's something worth being aware of and trying to fix.
And now I want to talk about you being so high tech. I understand what you use, Aura Ring, and can you share the parameters what you found most useful in gauging your overall well-being progress, after myofunctional therapy and after you learn new breathing habits? And I really appreciate we have another listener right there in the back.
We do. We have a kitty listener tuning in. He has a new sort of basket, so we'll see if he sleeps in it.
Yes, I
But
noticed.
Yes, I do use Aura Ring. I've been using it for at the time of this recording about 10
Mhm.
months, and I found it very helpful. Over the years, several times, I would use prescription tools to get some insight into how I was sleeping, the quality of my sleep, the number of disruptions, things like that, so I could see how my breathing was. But honestly, it was hard because you had to get a prescription for it, and yeah, I mean, I ended up it was I had to kind of argue with my insurance. It was a little onerous. And now, thanks to evolving technology in the Aura Ring, I am able to get insights, perhaps not as finely tuned, but really pretty good and pretty helpful, that do not require a prescription at all. Every single night, it measures my blood oxygenation. Every single night, it tells me how I did in terms of sleep disruptions, and it'll rate it for you. It'll say this is optimal versus this is good versus this is fair. And so it gives you a kind of pulse. It gives you a general sense of trends and how you are doing so that you can track your progress.
No, this is wonderful about ordering, and I always encourage my patients to use some type of wearables to uh, review the progress they made at night, because night is such a long period of life and you want to have a healthy hours instead of stress. Like a lot of people run the marathon at night, but they didn't even realize why they're so tired in the morning. But that's so wonderful what you use ordering. But I know you use some other apps, and if you can share with our listeners how you use to monitor progress of myofunctional therapy, in general, your progress through the night with other apps.
Yeah, there are a number of apps that I have found helpful over time. There is one called SnoreLab, which you had told me about, and that is a useful tracker that I have used for a while. There's one that I use, which is called, and I want to get the title exactly right here, HRV4, number 4, biofeedback. And that's a sort of breathing biofeedback tool that enables you in real time to track your heart rate and see how it's impacted by your breathing. So that's kind of a cool exercise to just make you more aware of it. I think that apps can be useful informational tools and sort of teach you a little bit more about how your body works.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they create accountability, like you feel accountable to yourself. And I think that's so powerful. At least how from I use HRV for biofeedback myself, and I think it's great. But we can slow down and just focus on the breathing. That's so important. I hope it's gonna inspire some other people to follow your example. I would like to ask you about, we're going back to your tongue, some specific exercise, and that's swallowing without help of your lips and cheek. Can you please talk about that? I know a lot of, we take a lot of things for granted. We take breathing for granted, however we want to breathe. We take swallowing for granted, and then we surprise why crowding exists. A lot of things. But what was it for you when you realized what you can swallow without help of your lips and cheeks, and what you can hold the tongue? We're so proud what use that trick to hold your tongue on the roof of the mouth, which actually create a good core for your body. Can you talk about that? I find it very challenging to explain the benefit of it to my patients.
Well, in many ways, it actually reminds me. Years ago, I did lessons in the Alexander technique, which is a movement technique that a lot of actors use. And some of the exercises that they would have you do, literally, they would have you, like, for 45 minutes practice opening a doorknob or things like that, where you're like, well, why am I doing this? What is this about? But it was sort of like the Karate Kid, where they're teaching you the wax on, wax off moves, because you're like, okay, I'm opening a doorknob. I think I already know how to do this. But it turns out, you're not necessarily doing it right. And it becomes a foundational tool. And similarly, everybody here, thinks they know how to swallow. But if we're not doing it right, if we're relying on these kind of auxiliary muscles to help us with swallowing, it means that we are not necessarily, we haven't really mastered the core skills. And I think you're right to use the word core in the sense that when you're at the gym, let's say you're exercising your core, you're doing back muscles, you're doing stomach muscles, it may not feel that gratifying in the sense that, you don't necessarily see an immediate impact. It's not like, oh, look at you and your back muscles. It's kind of more of a personal thing. It's not like you have, like the sexy arms or something from doing it, but doing those exercises underpin a variety of other beneficial behaviors, and it keeps it keeps all of the mechanisms functioning properly. So I would say it's kind of a useful baseline cross-training mechanism.
So now you use only your tongue when you swallow your drinks and your food,
yes,
without moving anything else, and it's actually help with the wrinkle formation. So we hope we don't have those. We don't need those.
absolutely.
I would like to ask you, you being such an accomplished, successful, and busy person, of course, like, most of the people are, how did you find? A lot of people complain, you know what, I'm busy already that much. I don't have time for all this exercise. How did you find the time to incorporate myofunctional therapy in your daily routine when you had the sessions with us and afterwards?
So I think it's important to recognize that it takes a little bit of cognitive space to practice and to make the effort to do it, but it doesn't actually take a huge amount of time. I mean, you are not asking everyone, oh, spend an hour a day doing myofunctional therapy exercises. That would legitimately be hard for a lot of people to fit in, but these are much smaller amounts of time, and you can accomplish a huge amount in maybe only 10 minutes a day. So it's the question of just mentally deciding, I am going to do this and fitting it in. Oh, very nice puppy cameo. That's great. So it's really, I think, important for people to just make the decision that they're going to do it. And then once they do, the actual time commitment is not so bad. It's not so intensive. So I would do things like when I was driving, I would do the exercises when I was stopped at traffic lights, or when you're brushing your teeth is a really great time to do it, in the morning and in the evening, because it's often helpful to look in the mirror so you can make sure you're doing the exercises correctly. And so I would take an extra 1 or 2 minutes then.
That's great. Now I'm going to ask you like final question about the impact myofunctional therapy. Like, what notable changes you observe in your breathing, in your sleep, in your overall being, incorporating myofunctional therapy into your routine? And I really would like you to talk to our audience about how you feel you breathe before and now, what it is now.
Thanks to myofunctional therapy, the most noticeable change is that I used to wake up literally almost every morning with headaches, and now I don't. So it makes life a lot more pleasant. I don't have to be taking medicine every morning to correct the headaches, and I am sleeping better. I would say also, I am much more conscious of my breathing. I'm much more, not in a bad way, but I'm conscious in the sense of just understanding that you really should be breathing through your nose almost all the time, if not all the time. And so being aware that that is the goal and being thoughtful about how to make sure that that happens has a cascade of benefits. And I feel much better equipped to do that.
Thank you very much, Dorie. We really appreciate you put all the answers in such a beautiful vessel. Thank you.
Thank you.